We just asked some questions about this picture. We came up with different questions. When we are looking at different types of questions, we're going to look at the question-answer relationship. So there's two different types of questions that we ask. We ask about questions that are in the text, meaning right there, the answer's right there on the page. These are simple questions like who, what, where, when, and how. But all we have to do is look down that page and we can find the answers. These are right there questions. The other type in the text question is the think and search. That means you're searching for the answer on different pages. This is questions like when I ask you to retell the story, summarize the story, compare and contrast two characters, and give examples of something in the story. You're going to be thinking about it, but you're searching in the story, looking at each page, what's being written, what the picture is, what the characters are saying to answer those questions. The other type of question is in my head. And there's two types of those. There's author and you, meaning you use your background knowledge and what you have just read to make an inference. These types of questions are predicting questions, do you agree questions, or why did the author type of questions. These you're not going to find the direct answer in the story. The other type of questions is on my own. After you read something, you're going to use your background knowledge and your experiences to tell your opinion. Did you know? Have you ever? How would you feel if that happened to you in the story? Asking questions. So how do readers ask questions? Well, good readers ask questions to themselves before, during, and after reading in order to make sense of what they're reading. Asking questions allows for active reading and interacting with the text. It also gives us a purpose for reading, and it helps us make predictions. It can also help to clarify the different vocabulary words or a confusing part of the text. Some really good examples of asking questions, and this is using both kinds in the text and in my head, are what do I think will happen next? How is the character changing? What is the author's purpose? And where is the setting? So why do you think asking questions helps you comprehend what you're reading a lot better? Asking questions, we already talked about, it helps us set a purpose. There are two types of questions you can ask while reading, or I will be asking you when it comes to quizzes, tests, or your chapter books. And they're thick and thin questions. So the thick questions are the questions in which they're about you, okay, in your head, author and you, or on your own. And the other type are thin questions. Thin questions are questions where the answer is right there, right in the text. So this is just another way of looking at types of questions, thick and thin. They're about you in your head, or they're directly in the text. Thin questions are facts, okay? Where, when, what, who, how many. These are often questions, the answer's right there, and you don't really have to think about these questions. You can look at the page and find the answer. Whereas the thick questions, these are in your head, meaning you will find the answer by referring to what the author is thinking and your own thoughts. These questions allow you to infer the answers based on what you know and what you've read in the story. So when you think about it, thick and thin questions, what type of questions do you think Mrs. Pluta is going to be asking you to ask? If you say thick questions, you are correct. Are thin questions important? Yes, they are. They help us answer the questions in our head a lot easier. Like, okay, when did this happen? Who's my character? How many people are in the story? How many chapters are there in the book? Things like that. Those are important questions that we have before we begin. We get into the thick questions once we start reading the book and as we're reading through the book. These thick questions that we come up with in our head helps us want to keep reading. Now, in your notebook, your reading notebook, we are going to take some notes on question-answer relationship. This is that QAR. This is going to help you when you are asking questions, just like we did with your chapter book, and we came up with questions to ask each other. And there are 4 parts to this. And what you're going to do is on the first clean page of your notebook, you are going to make a 4 square. Okay, a 4 square, and at the very top you can put QAR, question answer relationship. In the first square, you're going to write in the text, right there. The answer is right on the page, and you're going to put those 5 questions: the who, what, where, when, and how. You can pause the video so that you can put this in your notebook. The next part of in the text is your think and search, where you need to search for the answer on different pages. This is where when Mrs. Pluta asks you to retell, summarize, compare and contrast, or if I ask you to give me some examples. This will be the second box, and I would put it as in like, here's your first one, here's your second one. The next one is in my head. This is where we talk about the author and you. You're going to use your background knowledge and what you've read to make an inference. Do you agree? Predict. Why did the author? These are just examples of types of questions where you use your background knowledge plus what you've read to make an inference about what's happening in the story. And with all these questions, you can be right or wrong with the in my head based on what happens next in the story. The next part of the in my head is the on my own. You're going to use your background knowledge and experiences to tell your own opinion. Did you know? Have you ever? How would you feel? There's no right or wrong answers to these because it's based on your own background knowledge and experience in which you are telling your own opinion. For our activity today, we're going to practice asking questions. First, let's start by asking questions in which we can get the answer directly from the text or picture. Okay, so you're going to be asking questions, thin questions about the most magnificent thing. And that is a story by Ashley Spires. And then you're going to listen to the story and you're going to practice determining if questions are thick or thin, meaning you will then pose some thick questions, okay, the ones in your head, at the end of the story in a discussion. So the first part, in the next activity, you're going to come up with questions based on this picture of the book, and then you're going to listen to the story, and you're going to ask questions, and you're going to ask questions that come from within your head.